Before this video starts, I kind of want to do a little bit of a disclaimer for it. I filmed it coming up for a fortnight ago, and since then I have lost somebody who I really loved a great deal. I ummed and ahed about whether to keep this video at all. It felt kind of insensitive to the other people in my life who loved this person, and I was a bit sort of like, maybe I should just scrap it. And then I thought about it and thought, well, the content in it still stands, and the person that we lost was really brave and honest and open about the inevitability of the end. So I kind of want to dedicate it to her and put it out anyway, because the message is still the same and it still stands. So here's the video. Hi everyone! I saw a post on Facebook yesterday that really got me thinking. So without going into loads and loads of detail, it was from a funeral director somewhere up country who was talking about a very large company that exists who offer direct cremation. If you don't know what direct cremation is, it's basically where a person who has died is cremated without there being a funeral. You skip the funeral and go straight to the cremation. That's a weird version of Monopoly. Anyway, this funeral director was talking about the fact that there are these big companies who offer direct cremation, and maybe they're a little bit sketchy. They're not quite as reliable as if you just go to your local funeral director and say, my loved one has passed and I would like to just do a direct cremation, and they can organise it without having to use these big companies who, you know, shove you in a warehouse somewhere.
No.
It got me thinking not only about these companies that offer that, and I'm sure some of them are absolutely legit, and I'm not naming any names because I don't have any money, so I can't afford to be sued. But I do think there are people out there who will take advantage of the fact that there are lots of people in the world who don't really know what to do when somebody dies. They don't know what their loved one wants, or they've never had to organise a funeral. And the whole reason that this has become a problem is because we, particularly in Western culture, just don't talk about death. In fact, I would say in certain areas of the West, death has become a taboo subject. And it definitely never used to be. My beloved Henry has passed away, and so as is customary, I shall now dress in black for at least a year, and wear a locket containing his hair around my neck, which I of course cut from his head myself as he lay in the drawing room he loved so much. And I shall cover all the portraits in the house with black crape out of respect. There are plenty of cultures around the world who actively celebrate their dead and commemorate death in a very different way to the way that we do. And there are cultures where families keep their loved ones at home and take care of their bodies after they die. They bathe them, they dress them, they take care of them right until the funeral. And that's something that just isn't done very often, certainly in this part of the world. And I do feel like death has become a taboo. It's just something that we don't talk about. And in fact, if you are somebody who openly talks about death and is knowledgeable about the subject, people start to look at you like you must be incredibly morbid. I love all things macabre! I even did a video a few years ago called Am I Morbid?, where I talk about the fact that I used to be terrified of death, and then learning about it has gotten rid of my fear. But it's not something that has swept the world. I mean, my videos get watched by like 3 people, so I wasn't expecting it to, but you know. But I do believe that death is something that we should talk openly about, because after all, it's one of the only life experiences that we can guarantee is going to happen to every single one of us. Even you. You're gonna die. Yes, you. And I guess for a lot of people, the reason we don't talk about death is because it scares us. I just said that I used to have this massive fear of death, and it was genuinely kind of crippling. I was terrified of it, to the point that I used to say to my family and friends that if anything was to happen to me, I wanted to be buried in a shipping container, and inside that shipping container I wanted a bed, I wanted bottled water, I wanted a laptop, a mobile phone, some kind of portable Wi-Fi, even though I would be under the ground. I wanted canned food, I wanted tools, and I wanted some kind of escape hatch. And all of that was because I just couldn't imagine being actually dead. I kept thinking, no, I will wake up and I will need food and water. I will need to be able to access help. I will need to be able to break out of wherever I am. And of course, that's very unlikely to happen. I know there are horror stories about people being buried alive, but thankfully it does not happen as often these days as it ever did. In fact, I'd say that these days it's pretty rare. But as I mentioned, what stopped me being so scared of death was finding more about it, because I think sometimes the reason that we have fears is because it's something unknown. We don't understand it, and so it makes us feel fearful. And I read books, I watched videos, I listened to podcasts about what actually happens to our bodies as and after we die. It demystified it, and it stopped me being so scared. And that made me think, well, surely if it's a fear of the unknown that makes us scared to talk about death, the act of actually finding out more and talking about it should make it less scary. The trouble is, talking about death can make some people very uncomfortable. Do you want to be buried or cremated? Why would you ask me that? I don't want to think about death. Yeah, but don't you think it's something you should talk about so your family knows what you want when it's time? No, I don't like thinking about it. Oh, no, it's a horrible subject. All right. Do you want a cup of tea? Look, I said I don't want to think about death. Oh, yes, please. Milk, no sugar. I guess another reason that death has become a bit of a taboo subject is because of the emotions it's connected to. Nobody wants to have a conversation where you end up feeling rubbish and sad and depressed or scared. Death is associated with sadness for good reason. Unless you're a psychopath, when you lose someone you love, it makes you feel sad. And people don't want to think about the people they love dying. Ever since I stopped being so terrified of death for myself, now my fear is definitely more around losing the people I love. But because I love the people in my life, I make sure that death is something that we still talk about. For example, if you don't talk about death, you don't know what that person wants after they die. Do they want a direct cremation? Do they want to be buried? Do they want a massive funeral that's more like a party where people wear bright colours? Or are they very traditional and they want everybody to be sombre and dressed in black? You don't know these things unless you've spoken to your loved ones before the moment comes. So I want to know what the people around me want, so that if the worst thing happened when I'm already dealing with grief, I'm not also trying to work out answers to questions I should have asked long ago. And the same goes for me. I don't want a shipping container anymore. For the record, I want a wicker casket and a natural burial. No embalming. Don't you dare embalm me. I will haunt you. It's not just after death that this is important either. If you talk about death with your loved ones, then you know what they want in the case of something awful happening. Say somebody suffers a medical emergency. You need to know what their wishes are. Do they want every single life-saving measure, even if they're not going to have very much quality of life? I mean, quality of life is subjective, so everybody has a different view of what they would accept. So you need to ask those questions. I mean, we've all got a right to the level of care that we expect and want. And if you haven't had that conversation, you don't know what's going to happen. What I'm trying to say is I genuinely think talking openly about death and stopping it from being this taboo subject that we push away would be a good thing. It's always good to know what you want, to know what the people around you want, and to just be a little bit clearer about something that we're all going to have to go through at some point. If you are somebody who is like I was a few years ago and you're absolutely terrified and the whole idea of death and talking about it is gross, I'm amazed you've made it this far through this video, so thank you. I have some recommendations. I would recommend watching Caitlin Doty's YouTube channel. She's called Ask a Mortician on YouTube. She's amazing. I recommend listening to podcasts such as Obituary and also Kathy Burke's Where There's a Will, There's a Wake. And I also really recommend a phenomenal book called Ashes to Admin by Evie King. I found that book genuinely life-changing. In the meantime, it's a cliche, but life really is short, so I am going to go and spend it doing some stuff. Probably editing this video, but after that I will do stuff. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, please feel free to not give it a thumbs down. I find people who give thumbs downs to videos kind of psychotic. Why? Unless the content is like graphic violence or racism or bigotry of some kind, what's the point? Like, what do you gain from that? Yes, I'm a bit salty because I had some thumbs down recently on a video where I just talked about wanting nice things to happen for the people I love, and I'm like, why do you hate that, you psychopath? Anyway, if you would like to subscribe to this channel, you can click on my floaty head up there, and last week's video will appear over here. I really am going to go now before I die. Take care, everyone. Bye.